Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. You're aware that the Tennessee legislature has adjourned for this year, and we usually have Representative Judd Matheny come on and tell us what they've done to us or for us, and so we're going to do that again today. And couple of straight arrows. Give us a short version of a couple of things you're particularly pleased about this session.
Well, I'm pleased that we ended up with a balanced budget. We always, we hope the federal government would do that too, but it is important for folks to know that Tennessee does have a balanced budget. Our expenditures equal our revenue, and we had about a $270 million budget deficit this year, mainly due to some loopholes in franchise and excise taxes, and also the fact that the federal climate has about $2 trillion in our economy parked offshore right now, so there's less franchise and excise tax money available in Tennessee. We were able to still balance the budget.
We didn't go into the end of the year with an unbalanced budget, though, did we?
No, sir. We balanced the budget. That's correct, at the end of the year, right? And we were able to still have heavy cash reserves, and of course keeps our bond rating very steady. And Tennessee ended the year on a strong economic note. The only thing that probably have any regrets about is we weren't able to fully withdraw the Hall income tax according to the schedule that we had promised, and many of us fought to have that continue, but the governor assures us that next year he'll take another whack at it. But it's very important that Tennessee continue to totally annihilate the Hall income tax. We've done away with the death tax and the gift tax, and these things combined have made us the #1 state to build a business in and to park wealth and retire in now, and it's a huge deal for us.
Okay, you got another one?
Well, the postponement of Common Core, the postponement of additional curriculum, and even more important, the postponement of the PARCC test, which was to replace the TCAP test for 1 year so that it would give classrooms more of an opportunity to become acclimated to the Common Core curriculum should it continue to be fully implemented. And we also have found some sources to get the PARCC test done cheaper.
Okay, we'll talk some more about Common Core. I think a few things about that I don't understand. Let's take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and go some more.
The highest standard of trust offers a sense of safety and comfort. It's established over time. You know when you see it. You know when you feel it. There's a standard of trust in healthcare. It's the Joint Commission Gold Seal of Approval. In 2003, Life Care Center of Tullahoma voluntarily achieved this accreditation and maintains it still today. Life Care, meeting a higher standard because residents matter most.
Welcome to Merle Norman, located inside Northgate Mall in Tullahoma. Since 1931, Merle Norman Cosmetics have been researched, developed, manufactured, and packaged in the USA, using the highest quality ingredients and unmatched customer service to help women look and feel better about themselves.
Hi there, I'm Christy Almacher, owner of Merle Norman. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about Merle Norman products. We have a large line of skincare and cosmetics for all skin types. Merle Norman's motto is try before you buy, so we'd love for you to come in, talk to us about your concerns, try the products, and we want you to feel good when you leave here, so we hope to see you soon.
Want to feel good in your skin? Visit Merle Norman in Northgate Mall, Tullahoma.
Let the Smokehouse be your mountain getaway destination in beautiful Monteagle, Tennessee. Enjoy our cabins, restaurant, and old general store. Shop thesmokehouse.com featuring homemade barbecue sauces, jellies, and many other fine Tennessee products. Our live Music on the Mountain series features some of the best local and Nashville talent every Friday and Saturday night, 6:30 p.m. No cover, kids welcome.
We're talking today, folks, with Representative Judd Matheny, and we want to find out something about what they've been up to this year. I want to ask you a philosophical question. The Republicans in particular are always very vocal about more power migrating to Washington and encroaching on states' rights. But we'd like to get a whole bunch of that back, actually. And my question was, does that principle also apply to the state and the local governments?
Well, we try on every occasion to apply it to that principle. We actually have a local government committee in the Tennessee General Assembly that looks specifically at those issues. Is it a local issue, or is it a state issue? Is it one the state should be involved in? And these could be charter changes, they could be referendum ideas, they could be any number of special school district taxes.
A local committee.
A local committee, yes, sir. We also have a state government committee that looks at the relationship between state and federal issues. And generally, the Tennessee General Assembly does like to look at them on the same. That
I never hear it mentioned as a reason for one way or the other.
I'll show you a website where you can watch the local government archives from the internet, and you'll see it mentioned ad nauseum, I promise you. But there is one major difference between the federal government and local governments, with the state in the middle, and this is truly a difference that we take into consideration. Cities and counties are organizations created by the state, and their law changes come through the state and are approved by the state. The states are not created by the federal government, so there is a different spectrum of analysis that has to be looked at when you're looking at those issues. You can't just look at both of them and say we've got to treat them both equally, even though we do actually try to, I assure you.
Yeah, you haven't reminded the feds lately that they weren't that you're not a creature of the federal government.
Well, I have reminded them quite a bit, and I'm going to remind them, today's May 7th, I'll be reminding them in Franklin and Nashville tonight, and had several talks. So.
Okay. All right, well, that's one of the subjects, one of the statutes under that was the annexation bill that you passed. And that, in my view, has pretty well killed annexation. Was that the idea?
Well, it wasn't to kill it, it was to give a voice to those that are being annexed. And
well, I don't ever remember hearing anybody that's outside the city, go ask to come in. One or two commercial outfits, but not.
Well, the problem is what precipitated this primarily is so many cities, and I'm not casting any blame here locally because I just don't know the data, but so many cities, especially some of our larger cities, have not delivered the services that they've promised in the past. And so not only did we pass a bill that now gives voting rights to those that will be annexed, residential only. This does not apply to commercial annexation. It applies to residential annexation. They will actually get a chance to vote amongst themselves whether or not they want to be annexed. And if there's even if there's just 3 people, there'll be a referendum between those 3. And the next step is going to be a clawback provision where areas that have been annexed that have not been given the services that they were promised at annexation time will have a procedure to de-annex. And that's going to be the next phase. So if you think that killed annexation, I think you have to say annexation has killed itself in some areas by overpromising.
I think that's fair.
But what this should do is make everybody more vigilant about the promises they make and the decisions that they make, whether or not they want to be have those services or not. And this was not a debate that was taken lightly. This was about 3 years of solid debate. It started with Joe Carr and ended with representative out of Chattanooga, and it's been run through TASER, the Tennessee Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations. This has been looked at exhaustively, and Mike Carter's the gentleman's name that I was trying to get out of Chattanooga that finally carried a version of the bill across the finish line.
Well, there's bound to be a lot of arguments, pro and con, but as I say, I think it's for residential annexation, it's pretty well dead. Well, let's talk about, and I think I've kind of lost track of this, teacher licensure related to test performance.
Yes.
Where did that wind up, or has it wound up?
We no longer tie teacher performance or teacher licensure to test performance, according to the new law we passed this year. Now, there's still a whole host of things that are tied to teacher licensure, but the reason we detached the test scores is basically because the way the test scores were set up is teachers were being evaluated for things that they had those test scores were reflecting things that the teachers didn't have any frontline capability to control. And in many cases, the majority of an evaluation or a test score would be looked at for teacher licensure, and that teacher really couldn't reach out there and make a change by touching that child or that classroom in that way that data was showing itself. So by totally taking test scores, those TVOS scores, away from teacher licensure, it only puts teacher licensure on a set of credentialed fundamentals that each teacher should be able to meet, and then these new or these floating, I don't even know how to describe it to you, Tom, but these floating variables out there that teachers can't control can no longer be used against them in a licensure.
Okay, but have we abandoned teacher pay, for example, being test scores being taken into consideration?
No, they can
not totally, but
not totally. No, and of course, teacher pay's not been abandoned, but we weren't able to advance it any this year. But the governor has, and we trust the governor, has committed to making Tennessee the one of the most friendly states in the Southeast, and definitely in this region for teachers, for their salaries. And we're going to try to improve them on every front we can. We're trying to unravel some of the frustration that's in the classroom that has come from a very aggressive implementation of Race to the Top and Common Core and new evaluation systems. And I think the Tennessee General Assembly has listened to the teachers after a couple of years of much debate between the teaching profession and Tennessee General Assembly. And we're trying to slow things down a little bit and try to restore some of the esprit de corps and the morale in the classroom, and at the same time try to give teachers more latitude to teach and start detracting ourselves or detaching ourselves from nothing but a test-driven education and have it more latitude in the classroom. And that is the overall thing we're trying to do.
How are you going to fully address the fact that Tennessee is still way down in the 40s somewhere in terms of our school performance in the nation?
We're going to have to constantly address it. And I don't think, and we're going to get into Common Core, I know, but I don't think adopting a federal curriculum or adopting new tests or adopting a whole new set of standards that are uniform across the country is the way to do that. I think it's going to be to empower the teacher and the individual schools with the ability to do the best that they can possibly do, have minimum standards they have to hit, and let them find a way to hit those. And if they can't hit them, then...
Where are you going to get those minimum standards?
Well, those minimum standards, as we already have minimum standards now that work. By adopting the Common Core, there's 45 states that have adopted Common Core. And folks, if you don't know what Common Core is, I would encourage you to maybe Wikipedia, do some research on it, and do some research on both sides. I have been into several classrooms and helped to teach the Common Core over the last year, just for a day at a time. And the methodology, the teaching methodology, in some cases is not so bad. In other areas, it seems to be very difficult. Now, I know it's a new methodology, and I was taught on the old one. But the bottom line is the federal government beginning to creep into our everyday education system.
Well, the Common Core was originally established by about 45 of the state government officials. It wasn't a federal invention.
It was actually the Governors Association adopted the idea to have a Common Core, and then the Common Core was actually created by various groups. And we are a country, though, of unique citizens and unique customs, and a one-size-fits-all curriculum injected into our schools. Many of us in the General Assembly just aren't comfortable with it. We're not comfortable with getting into another relationship with the federal government that is so deep that it actually goes down to the pre-K level for our kids. Until the federal government, and you could make the same argument, Tullahoma City could make this, or Manchester City about the state government, I know, but until the federal government can get its ship in order and get a balanced budget and get our debt under order, we don't need to get into any more agreements with them that are long-term that will eventually have strings attached to them.
I don't know where that's coming. Maybe I don't know what a Common Core standard is.
A Common Core standard is basically my kid can go to Fair Elementary here, and then if I move to Washington State, that my kid should be able to pick up at the exact place he left off at Fair School. Now, in one world, you could say, well, that's great. It's good that we can have this seamless transition. In another, you have to say, well, wait a minute. We've got a whole different type of people here. We have a different climate. We have a different industry. We have different expectations of different life expectancies. What is wrong with having a unique set of educational principles per each state instead of one size fits all? And once again, the federal government,
there's a lot to be said.
There's a lot to be said.
There's a lot to be said for measuring states to states to states, states to international standards, federal to international standards. A lot to be said for being able to.
There is, but there's also a lot to be said.
We're at the bottom of a heap in both, whether you're talking nation or whether you're talking international.
Well, and some of that's up to interpretation, though, of how you look at it. I think we're closer to the middle nationwide on many of the kids that we're
what's not
in which is still not satisfactory.
Yeah,
but we are behind internationally. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, is the fact that we have to take a short commercial break.
Yeah.
The final countdown has begun on the remaining 2013s at Russell Barnett Kia. With only a few left in inventory, these deals are amazing. Check out this 2013 Kia Sportage, yours today for $21,500 or $349 a month. That's incredible. With America's best warranty, the 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, Kia is the power to surprise. So come on down to Russell Barnett Kia and let us show you why we are #1 in customer satisfaction. And remember, why buy anywhere else?
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please, for the following public service announcement. He's back! The Watkins Man is back, bringing his world-famous Watkins products to 104 East Lauderdale Street in Tullahoma, where Richard and Stephanie Carpenter have opened the area's only Watkins store. Since 1886, Watkins has produced all natural products, starting with the pain liniment and now including soaps, oils, creams, scrubs, royal jelly, beeswax, supplements dedicated to natural health and pain management, cover total external and internal body care. And don't forget the world-famous spices, extracts, teas, and cooking ingredients. With too many products to list, know that all Watkins products are 100% natural, using the highest quality ingredients obtainable. Always remember, with Watkins, when you buy the best, you use less.
A salute to the never wasters, the coupon clippers, switch flippers, one last drop of milk drippers, the thoughtfully thrifty, and the just plain cheap. Charter respects your economic IQ and honors it with a phone service worthy of your ever-watchful wallet. Charter Phone, just $19.99 a month. For real monthly savings for fabulously frugal folks like you. Switch to Charter Phone and get unlimited local and long distance and 13 calling features with no extra fees like the phone company charges you.
I'm meteorologist Leland Statham from the News Channel 5 Weather Center. Look to Jim Fuller and crew for local news night here on Channel 6.
We're back, folks, and we're talking today with Representative Judd Matheny, and we have just resolved all the Common Core standards issues, and so we can go on to something else. Tennessee Promise. And you guys,
it's a last dollar.
You guys passed that?
Yes, sir. It's a last dollar scholarship opportunity. What the Tennessee Promise will do is it will enable every graduate of a Tennessee high school, starting in 2015, with an opportunity to go to a community college or the technical colleges for free. Any other aid you receive, any scholarships, any federal aid will be counted first against your tuition. Any tuition or fees remaining will be paid by the Tennessee Lottery, or it's by the Tennessee Promise, which is basically an endowment that's made up of lottery reserve funds. The whole principle sounds good, and it's something that is a lofty goal. My job, I know I sound like a curmudgeon sometimes, Tom, but my job, and I know folks that have met me personally, I always say this to them, my job is to fix bad stuff. It's not just to tout all the good things in the state, even though there's 1,000 good things for every bad thing in the state. But I always worry about the decisions we make, and the Tennessee Promise we did end up putting what's called circuit breaker language in there that made me much more comfortable at the end of it. But basically, it's based on higher education tuition never being more than about 4.5% a year on an increase, and we've averaged 7 to 9% a year on higher education tuition increases over the last decade, somewhere around there. So that plan in itself is not going to balance out in the long run, and I'm looking at 10, 12 years down the road to make sure the general fund's not going to have to bail out the Tennessee Promise, because it's supposed to be self-sufficient based on existing scholarships that a student has.
Well, I know the four-year schools were concerned about
four-year schools were concerned because
taking a little money away from them.
Especially for the first few years until the system catches up. And then the other concern we have is the capability of our higher education institutions to be able to take all these new students. Somewhere in the neighborhood of, once it's fully ramped up, 50 to 60,000 new students in the system, and that puts a strain on existing facilities like Motlow, Walter State Community College, on our technology centers. That requires more teachers, more buildings, and none of those things.
Are they objecting to it? The community colleges and the technology centers object to the law?
They're embracing the challenge. But they're not objecting to it.
Okay.
But they realize that there will be, or they want the General Assembly to know that there's going to be more money for labs needed, more money for cafeterias, more money for power plants and maintenance and parking lots and everything else, and that money is not included in the Tennessee Promise. So somewhere down the road, the legislature has to come up with that, and it's not cheap. Just for instance, the new science lab at MTSU, which granted is a big building, is $120 million, but it's nothing for a college like Motlow to need $4 to $12 million for a new facility. Now, we're fortunate that we have the Motlow Foundation here, and we have a lot of private giving that helps overcome some of those, but still that's not going to be enough to overcome the expansions that are going to be needed when this is fully operational. So we have to continue to look at those. Now, this circuit breaker language that I'm talking about that was inserted basically says that if at some point in the future the revenues that are coming out of the endowment of the Tennessee Promise cannot keep up with the commitments it has made, that the awards will be diluted, as they need to be.
You're going to back out of it, huh?
Well, there is a way to back out.
At the same time, we're confronted with the fact that more and more of the employers are saying, you're not giving us people who are qualified for the job. And all the jobs, I said, somebody said the other day, there are no more low-skilled jobs.
That's correct. There are not.
There's technology required across the board.
Even many of your plants are using robotics now. They're using integrated systems that you have to cross-train yourself as an employee on, not just as a computer programmer, but as a machinist and as a mechanic and as a general laborer. And just to put it in perspective, I was with Industrial Board on Tuesday, and this area, Manchester-Tullahoma area, has 500 new hires that for 2 plants in Manchester this year, and these are all high-tech jobs, and it's all hands on deck trying to find out where we're going to get these individuals.
Yeah, right. Okay. So whatever we do in that regard, and I think in addition, this is a step I think that was calculated to help reach Governor Haslam's goal of
55% of Tennesseans having a college degree by 2025.
Right.
And it is a potential goal we can reach. I would also like to see the Tennessee Promise extended to what we call the non-traditional students, which would be the housewife that has raised a couple of kids at home and wants to go back to school in their 40s, somebody my age that wants to go back and get more education. Those are the people that, if we want high graduation rates, we need to target those folks also and enable them to be able to go to school.
Well, if they have a high school diploma, are they not able to take advantage of that?
Not now, the Tennessee Promise, no, sir. They will not be grandfathered in.
Current graduates.
It's only current graduates. They will not be grandfathered in, and there's just a few exceptions in there for hardships such as military orders and things like that might prohibit you from going directly from high school to college.
So what you need to do is improve Tennessee Promise.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That would be the objective.
Well, and I think for us to make progress toward having our people be more qualified is going to cost money.
Oh, it's absolutely. It's going to cost money. It's going to cost resources. We just want to make sure that the high schools continue to be compelled to do the job a high school is supposed to do. make sure the community college does the job that they're compelled to do, and the technology centers what they're compelled to do. We don't want high schools saying, well, you're going to go to school free anyway. Not that they would do this, but there has been traditionally about 25% of incoming freshmen have had to take remedial classes out of high school. We're trying to correct that also. Let
me give you a little expectation of the future. There's just at the same time all this debate was going on, I saw an article about in one of the New York City boroughs, and I forget which one, they have set aside, they've established a special school that they have now extended 2 more years. So high school is a 6-year, at the end of which you get the certificate of a community college as well as a high school diploma.
I absolutely see that.
We're looking at a 6-year high school.
Well, and I see that in many cases being, we already are graduating seniors from Tullahoma, or from Tennessee. I think Tullahoma's done this actually, from Tennessee high schools with associate's degrees that are going to dual enrollment schools.
Oh yeah, they're taking a lot of
absolutely. So I don't think that what you're talking about is far from a reality, or getting some synergies out of putting the 2 schools together.
Well, Fiddle, we've run out of time, folks, and we didn't cover nearly our subject. So, but we'll have to take a short commercial break and wrap up.
Imagine a world with more birthdays. We strive for it every day. We fight to get people the best access to care and the chance for more parties to plan. We're the American Cancer Society. Help create a world with more birthdays at morebirthdays.com.
Get your news first, fast, and free with your news leader on 6 every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights at 6, 8, and 10 p.m. Local weather, sports, community calendar events, and a comprehensive look at the latest news stories and news makers as only a video news broadcast can do. Get it first, fast, and free with News Leader on Channel 6, your local information network.
We've been talking today, folks, with Representative Judd Matheny, and we've been trying to catch up, and we didn't have nearly enough time to do all the catching up we'd like to have for the session this year, but that's the way it goes. So we're going to have to wrap up in a minute. Judd, you got a little something you'd like to say to the folks?
Well, sure. I'd just like to thank everybody for all their support over the last 12 years, and the opportunity to be able to serve. And don't forget that your state government is the most open in the nation, and you can watch everything that goes on in state government at our website, tennessee.gov. Everything we do is live and online, and every piece of legislation we have is on there, and you should please take advantage of that. I want to thank the business community and the citizenry in Coffee County for supporting us again with a very successful Coffee County Day on the Hill back in March, and we fed about 700 people at the state capitol, the conference center did, and then had a whole lot of support for our annual legislative orientation, which includes machine gun shoot and tour of the AEDC base, and had a great time there, and the Lieutenant Governor came down and spent some time with us, and it's just very obvious that this is a strong, well put together community, and I'm proud to represent it.
Well, good, and I want to thank you for taking time to come and join us today. Sir. And we'll do this some more. Meanwhile, folks, we thank you for inviting us into your parlor, and we'll see you next time.